What do you make of the age question with Biden? I mean, for me, it's one of the biggest worries, to be honest. Just because I think that if he's up against Trump, there will be a small section of people who just say, this dude's past it, this dude has more energy, and make that judgment entirely upon imagining Joe Biden. I mean, we look at him now and can't imagine him in 5 years' time when he's going to be presumably barely functioning at all. What do you make of this? Is it important? Is it dispositive? Is it amazing that the Democratic Party has no one as capable of running as Joe Biden, this poor guy who's having to do it now in his 80s?
Well, but this is just the common way that people act. I mean, I think there's a fatalistic personality where somebody gets a diagnosis and they say, you have 6 months to live. And they say, well, that's it, 6 months. And there's a person who say, you know what, they said that, I'm going to be the guy who beats it. And I feel a lot of what's happened with Democrats on the Biden question is, he's old, but he's going to be the kind of guy who ages more like Clint Eastwood, where he's missing some steps. He looks old, but he's still got it. I think there is some I'm saying I think a lot. I should. I'm not used to saying my opinion as much, except in little glowing boxes. I wrestle with it because I've seen this with Democratic voters I talk to who will give the litany of their problems with Biden's age and then kind of hope that he can pull it out for another term. And I think it's that simple. It's just people want to believe the best. They want to believe why are there still people will react to the death of a 90-year-old celebrity with like shock and memories because they want people to live forever. I think that's a lot of what's going on. I think you see up close. This is getting back to what I was saying. When I started out covering campaigns, there was not a video of the whole thing. There were videos of every Biden speech. I've covered some in person. He doesn't have the fastball. He doesn't have a lot of his old pitches. He can get lost. Everything that's been reported is true. And then I'll go to a Biden event where he kind of put in a B- or C+, or he coughed a lot during it. And he'll come out and say, yeah, it looks good. So now when it comes to the whole party, I feel that's what's happened. And it's really the Kamala question. I mean, when I talk to Democrats and they say, what about 2028? Almost never do they start with, well, the first female vice president who will at that point be completing 2 terms will probably be the front runner. They start with somebody else. This is the strange, you hit on the strangest thing that I've covered relative to if you'd told me, 20 years ago about the gender identity and the way it was being reinterpreted and Judith Butler's books becoming like lingua franca for like the league conversation, I would say, well, that's surprising. But things happen. You don't be like this particular set of circumstances where the president is the oldest there's ever been. His vice president made history yet is very unpopular. And the party, it is just every day, every week that continues to be true. And there's not a new thing to say about it. You can quote some other Democrat who's like, yeah, I wish that Kamala was more popular. I think there's
I'm worried that at some point...
You're right. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm worried at some point next year, Biden will either have to quit or have some episode. Not his fault. I mean, he's amazing for his age. Kamala might become president automatically. And then we have Kamala as an incumbent. It's not impossible.
In that scenario, I actually think she's been underrated. As somebody who would inherit the presidency at a time of national tragedy, which the death of the president would be, I feel like there would be a Kamala rebrand. The problem that comes up if you cover her, and other people have covered her more, is that she has a set of political skills that got her very far. But in this job, she's been asked to kind of do stuff that requires a lot more studying up, a lot coming up with the right phrase because you
political skills does she
back
have?
and forth. And she doesn't do that.
What political skills does she have?
I think in a courtroom, in a debate setting, personally, one-on-one, I mean, this is the thing here about every politician who has low approval ratings, though, that personally they're much nicer. Also very true.